Hello guys, my name is Ajibola, but you can call me Jeeps. In this video, I'll be looking at the Russia-Ukraine war. I will not be looking at everything that has transpired in the war in detail. I'll basically be looking at the aspects that has to do with the Russia, the part of the Ukrainian territory that Russia is currently controlling, or that Russia has made significant advances into. So that's the part I'm looking at. Just to, I'll be viewing the issue from a political geography standpoint. All right, so just a bit of a background. Ahead of the meeting between Trump and Putin on Friday, 18th August 2025, Trump said something about both sides, as Ukraine and Russia, being willing to give up territory. So he said that, both sides should be willing to give up some territory or even swap territories. All right. And then, on 15th August 2025, both of them had a meeting, both Trump and then Putin. After the meeting, the information, I listened to some analysts and, and also to the news, and some of the information that I was getting was that they didn't really, both sides, both leaders rather, didn't really arrive at any conclusion, and that so basically it wasn't like they had arrived at any conclusion. I was also hearing things about Russia being more concerned about having a peace deal rather than having a ceasefire. I know that at some point the US was proposing a ceasefire, but then it seemed the Russians were more interested in a peace deal and all that. But I don't want to go into all those details. Now, let's now move on to the parts that I mentioned earlier, the parts of the Ukrainian territory that the Russians are controlling, or that they have made significant advances into. So now, I think a few days after that meeting between Trump and Putin, I watched an interview so the Secretary of State, U.S. Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, was being interviewed by on a news channel. And then in the process, I think in the course of the interview, or probably shortly before the interview, I saw the map of the areas of the oblasts being provinces. So they refer to provinces as oblasts in both Russia and then Ukraine. So the oblast that Russia is currently controlling, and I was saying to myself, will Russia really be willing to give up any of these oblasts? I mean, based on what Trump said, that both sides should be willing to give up some territories or even swap territories. And I was wondering, which of these territories would Russia be willing to give up? All right. I mean, from a political geography standpoint, it didn't look like something that the Russians would want to do. Now, do not get me wrong. I'm not trying to say that the Russians should not give up territory, or that, since they've annexed those territories or those parts of Ukraine, that they should hold on to them. That's not my point. I was just basically looking at it from a political geography standpoint, and I was like, okay, this, I mean, from a political geography standpoint, it just took at the time, and even till now, it did not, and even till now, it still doesn't look like the Russians will be willing to give up any part of the territory that they've annexed, or they have almost or annexed. That Ukrainian territory that they've annexed, or that they've almost annexed. So let me share my screen so I will see what I'm talking about. Okay. All right. So shortly before recording this video, I just did some search to confirm the parts of Ukraine that the Russians are controlling. And so I'm not looking at the map that was displayed during that interview with during the interview that that news channel or that news network had with Marco Rubio. So, but I just decided to Google and then check, the parts of Ukraine that Russia is controlling. And from what I'm seeing here, I'm checking different sources. Here's the BBC. Uh, here's the BBC. Here's Al Jazeera. No, sorry. Here's so I think this is like an institute for the study of war. Then Al Jazeera. I don't think Al Jazeera has, but anyway, I've checked quite a number of them, and I've seen some form of consistency in the sense that, okay, so yes, the Russians are trying to lay claim to 4 oblasts in Ukraine. So those are the oblasts of Luhansk, of Donetsk, of Zaporizhzhia, um, of Kherson. Okay, I think 5 oblasts actually, and then Crimea. So the Crimea was annexed back in February of 2022, sorry, of 2014 rather. So it was annexed at the time in February of 2014, while the other 4 oblasts were annexed. Um, they were annexed after the Russian invasion of Ukraine in February of 2022. Of course, it wasn't like they were immediately annexed, but in the course of the war, they were annexed. I've also read reports that all these 4 oblasts, these other 4 oblasts minus the Crimea, the Russians have not gained full control of these 4 oblasts. But uh, but at least they have significant control of those oblasts. That's the oblast of Luhansk, Donetsk, Zaporizhzhia, and Kherson. So now, so from what you can see here, these are the 4 oblasts. Let me see if I can enlarge this so you can see them. Okay, well, the names are not being displayed here. Okay, well, this is Donetsk, this is Lugansk. I think Zaporizhzhia should be somewhere here. Okay, yeah, so this is Zaporizhzhia, and then this is Kherson. Then while this is the Crimea. Let me look at the map. I think this will display it better. Okay, so ISW seems to be able to, I mean, it seems the ISW, okay, so here, so from what we are seeing, so this is Lugansk, Donetsk, Zaporizhzhia, and then Kherson. So Sevastopol, that's in Crimea. So I want to believe that this is Crimea. So now, what just struck me when I was watching that interview with Michael Rubio was that, look, these 4, or so let's take, let me start with the Crimea. Crimea is a peninsula, and the Russians, before it was annexed in 2014, February 2014, they had leased a part of Crimea from the Ukrainian government, so that they could have their naval fleet there. Now, when Ukraine wanted to align with the West, the Russians quickly annexed Crimea. I mean, they had, and I think they still have, a naval fleet there. And they realized that this was going to be, this was going to be, how do I put it? That place was of strategic importance to them. So if Ukraine should align with the West and the US and other Western countries, then it would put their, their strategic interest or their security and other basically their strategic interest at risk. So they annexed it. So now the question is, would they now be willing to give up the Crimea, where they had set up a naval fleet? Would they be willing to do that, especially when it's a peninsula? Okay, they wouldn't want to risk giving up a peninsula to giving up a peninsula. Anybody that understands how do I put it now? Anybody that understands, has a bit of an understanding of um, part of a country's territory, of the importance of the part of the country's territory that is just by the sea. You understand what I'm trying to talk about? So would they be willing to give that up? I mean, look at how it looks. It's a peninsula. It's just by the Black Sea. The Black Sea is just to, I think, should I say, to the southern part, southern part, yes, while the Azov Sea is to the northeastern part. So would they be willing to give that up? I don't think so. Again, I'm not trying to say that, oh, it is okay for them to continue to hold on to it. But again, looking at it from political geography standpoint, I mean, it doesn't look like something that the Russians would want to do. Okay. And for Lugansk, well, the Russians um, said, so another thing we should consider is that for some of these territories, they have some of these these oblasts, they have significant Russian ethnicity. So at least I'm sure of Luhansk, Donetsk, and Crimea. Okay, so a good number of the people there are ethnic Russians, and the information we got, or that what I learned was that when the Russians conducted um, a referendum in each of these oblasts, uh, people voted overwhelmingly to join. People in this oblast voted overwhelmingly to join Russia. Now that's subject to debate. Some people have said, "Oh no, it's a lie. No, it's true," and all that. But one thing is for sure: a significant number of the people living in this oblast are actually ethnic Russians. Okay, so now I don't want to go into some controversial stuff. I don't want to say, oh yes, the referendum that was conducted in each oblast was justified or reflected the will of the people and all that. I don't want to go into that. Now, so eventually, I mean, but then we should also take into consideration the demographic makeup of this um, of this oblast. So if they're ethnic Russians, most likely they would have some soft spot for Russia. I mean, this is me just using common sense. I'm not saying that, oh, they should be allowed to join Russia. That's not my point. But most likely they would have some small soft spot for Russia to say, oh, okay. But let's even put that aside. Maybe the Russians are lying. Maybe it's just all made up. And maybe it's true. But I don't want to go into any form of controversy. So, but then, based on on the referendum that the Russians conducted in each province, that's in each of these three oblasts. They now went on to proclaim republics, or to say, oh, this oblast, I know of Lugansk and Donetsk, they declared as um, republics and all that. While um, how do I put it now? While Crimea was annexed and then annexed and then considered to be a part of Russia. Now, so my point is this. Now, if the Russians are now controlling Lugansk, a significant part of Lugansk, although I understand that they are not in full control of Lugansk and Donetsk, and even these other ones, Kherson and Zaporizhzhia. But if they have significant control, seeing that how contiguous this part of Ukrainian territory is. So the way it flows from Lugansk to Donetsk and then Zaporizhzhia and then Kherson, would they be willing to just say, oh, okay, so let's just give up Zaporizhzhia? That cuts off Lugansk and Donetsk on one side, and then Kherson on another side, and Crimea. Or would they say, oh, let's give up Lugansk, or let's give up Donetsk, or let's so anyhow you look at it, I mean, this looks like a contiguous area, contiguous in the sense that there's no Ukraine controlled how do I put it now? No territory that's in between that is not being controlled or significantly controlled by the Russians. So the Russians now say, okay, so let's give this up while the other part in between will be controlled by Ukraine, or let's give this other part up while it's been. Kherson is just by the Black Sea. Would they now say, oh, let's just give that up? and then, well, we'll be cut off from the Black Sea. Not entirely cut off from the Black Sea, because of course the Crimea is still there. So, but then, but I mean, for if they've made if they've been able to gain significant control of these areas, and then some of them are just by the sea, whether the Black Sea or the Azov Sea, would anyone imagine that they would want to give up any of this territory? So, and that's why soon after the meeting between Trump and Putin, uh, when I started hearing that soon afterwards, Putin resumed bombardment of Ukraine. I wasn't. Don't let me. I don't want to say I wasn't too surprised, because maybe he resumed the bombardment of Ukraine for a different reason. I don't want to attribute it to the fact that it wasn't, but I could also tell that from a political geography standpoint, it would not he would not be willing to give up the territory, except he'll be willing to give up everything, which doesn't look like it's going to happen. Again, I'm not trying to say that it is not right for him to give up territory, but what I'm saying is, from a political geography standpoint, if an external force is controlling a significant part of uh, another country's territory, such that um, those parts that it's controlling within that other country's territory are now contiguous, and some of them are just by the sea. Um, it's going to be big. I can't. I really don't know how they would want to give that up. Not because I don't want them to give that up, but because you know. Uh, I mean, it's just like human nature. I mean, you've made this, you've advanced to this point, most likely you don't want to give it up. Not whether it's right or wrong, it's totally different. That's a totally different ballgame entirely. But political geography, that's the part I'm looking at. Again, the Crimea, Sevastopol, the Russians, when they annexed Crimea back in 2014, they had a naval fleet here in Sevastopol. Okay, and I think it was based on that they had to quickly annex Crimea. Again, I'm not trying to say that it's right or wrong. I'm just reporting, facts. I'm reporting, what's out there, what everybody knows. I mean, or at least what people who have been following these events know. And also, for me, from a political geography standpoint, even for me, I was like, okay, so this is even a peninsula. It's by the sea. It's a peninsula. I mean, it's a strategic uh, piece of real estate. Let me use that term um, for, for an invading force. Okay, so, and even if the Russians had allowed the Ukrainians to align themselves with the West or with the United States, the United States would have also found this to be a prime piece of real estate that they could set up their naval base, or set up some strategic military base at. So Crimea is of strategic importance to any, any, how do I put it now? A place like Crimea will be of strategic importance to any country that is able to gain control of it. Again, I'm not trying to say that it is right. I'm only looking at it from the political geography side, part of things. And then for Lugansk, um, Donetsk, well, the information we got, or the information out there, was that, oh, people who voted overwhelmingly again. I don't know whether some people have said, oh, it's a lie. Russia conducted referendum in each of these provinces, and even in Crimea. Um, I mean, whether the referendum in each province was, I mean, reflected the will of the people or not. I mean, I don't want to go into that, but then something that is um, something that is worth noting is the fact that a significant uh, a significant number of the people in each of these three oblasts, that's Luhansk, Donetsk, and Crimea, a significant number of them are ethnic Russians. Okay, not ethnic Ukrainians, ethnic Russians. So that's why it makes sense to imagine. So one can easily imagine, let me say it makes sense, so that it doesn't look like I'm actually arriving at any conclusion or I'm in support of anything. But it's one could imagine why, um, you know, why it would be said that the people who voted overwhelmingly to join Russia or to align with Russia. Again, I'm not saying it is right for Russia to take over these places. I'm only reporting the information that's out there. And then for Kherson and Zaporizhzhia, so it's just contiguous. So this territory is just contiguous. So if they give up any of this territory, I mean, it would not be, from a political geography standpoint, it doesn't look like it's going to be in Russia's interest from a political geography standpoint. Except they want to just to give up everything and say, okay, you know what, we took this territory from Ukraine, we are giving it back. All right, so we are going. But so long as they are willing, and for as long as they are willing to hold on to any part of Ukrainian territory, from a political geography standpoint, it doesn't look like they would be, willing to give up any part of this territory. Again, all of these appear to be, piece of, good real estate. So like Zaporizhzhia, so these parts, they are, you know, they have the Azov Sea to the south. Kherson has the part of, so has Odessa. Okay, no, sorry, no, Odessa is not part of it. So some part of Kherson is also has the Black Sea to the south and things like that. So those are things that I think Russia will be looking at. Again, strictly from a political geography standpoint, I'm not saying, oh, Russia should hold on to it and give it up. I'm not saying that it's in Russia's interest. I'm not saying that uh, I'm supporting what Russia is doing. I'm being neutral here. I'm reporting it based on what I'm seeing. Okay, so based on what I'm seeing, it doesn't look like Russia will begin to give this up. And that's one side to it. Now, recently, the other side to it is this. Recently, the U.S. President Donald Trump made a U-turn and said, you know what, Ukraine should be able to. I think Ukraine will be willing to, will be able rather to win back all its lost territories. Uh, I don't how that's going to happen. I don't know, because number one, Russia is way more powerful than Ukraine. Uh, Find the Ukrainians are being propped up by NATO, uh, by the US, and all that. Although some analysts have said that, oh, if one should read what the full text or the full length of what Trump posted in his Truth Social post, where he said that Ukraine should be able to win back its territory, that Trump was basically trying to wash off his hands from the Russia-Ukrainian war, the Russia-Ukraine war, and that he's trying to hand things over to the Europeans and all that. But I don't even want to go into that. I mean, I don't know what what was going through his mind at the time. It makes sense for people to think that way, that he's trying to wash his hands off of it. But at the same time, I only want to single out the part where he said that Ukraine will be able to win back the territory. Uh, Again, from a political geography standpoint, number one, okay, so before I even, from a political geography standpoint, it doesn't look like the Russians are willing to give this up to the Ukrainians, even in combat. And, not to now talk of the fact that the Russians are way more powerful than Ukrainians. They have, more manpower, they have more weapons than Ukrainians. And so basically, they are clearly at a more advantageous position in terms of capabilities than the Ukrainians. So the question now is, would the Russians be able to be willing to say, you know what, let's just give this up? Um, I mean, again, from a political geography standpoint, uh, I don't think so. And then, well, from what Trump has said, that the Ukrainians should be able to defeat and win back their lost territories or their lost provinces, oblasts. Will they be able to do that? Uh, I think the Russians would do everything in their power to keep this oblast. I mean, fine, they do not have 100% control of this oblast yet, uh, but they have significant control and I'm not sure they would want to. I do, again, from a political geography standpoint, having acquired um, this much territory, this much land, or this much um, uh, this significant area of this how would I put it, strategic areas of Ukraine. I don't think they would want to just give them this oblast up so easily. So what do you guys think? Please drop your opinions in the comment section. I'd love to read from you. And then if you like this video, the content of this video, please do remember to click on the like button, and also please do subscribe to the channel. Thank you.